In this video, we shall be discussing why you should opt with PSIR optional. But this video is not only about why you should opt PSIR as an optional. This video is also about your optional selection guide. I'll not drag you only to the PSIR optional, but how you should also select an optional. These things you might have seen n numerous of times on YouTube and across different coaching and across different teachers who might be selling why you should be taking PSIR as an optional, wherein it is scoring and predictable. PSIR has consistently given toppers, it is scoring, it is predictable, the course is well defined, it is in detail, and you can predict every topic that might be resonated in the exam. So it is for sure, I'm just repeating the obvious stated facts. The second thing is that it basically provides a strong GS overlap, which other teachers also might have highlighted to you, that it has a lot of GS lab, particularly in the GS paper 2, parts of it in GS paper 1, and also parts of it in GS paper 4. So it has a tremendous overlap with the GS paper subjects, completely over GS paper 2, and then also in the subjects of GS paper 1 and that of GS paper 4. Third is that it is current affairs driven, so you have to also read the newspapers on a daily basis. So it is driven by current affairs, so you can jot down all that have you read in the newspapers and make it for your personal use. And fourthly, it is also adding to your depth of knowledge. You will be thinking about, you will be reading about new leaders, you will be reading about what is happening around you in the world, you will be reading about the scholars, Plato, Aristotle, Gandhian thought, Ambedkar thought, why Gandhi and Ambedkar were in conflict with each other on the matters of reservation or on the matters of what we called as Dalit empowerment. So you will be reading a lot in PSIR, different books, different sources, different ideologies, different perspectives, all these ideologies that are governing the countries all around the world today. So it will also add to your knowledge, which ultimately will contribute to your interview depth also. So these are the things that is not new. I am not telling anything new. I am not telling anything magical here. This is already, you are knowing this. If you are not knowing this, you are not now known about these. Why should you take PSIR as an optional? But my main idea is regarding your optional picking guide. Your optional picking guide should have 3 deliberate things that you should keep in mind while selecting an optional. And this one thing, the first thing that is there that you should keep in mind while selecting the optional is the level of interest that you have. The first thing that you will keep in mind is the level of interest. See, for me, if I have to choose my optional, the first thing that I will keep in my mind is interest. Why? Because optional is a thing that you have to read again and again. N number of numerous revisions are needed. You need to memorize certain statements, certain lines that will be as it is replicated in the examination hall in the paper. So there needs to be an interest, otherwise you will get bored out of the optional if you are not genuinely interested in that optional. Do not take the optional just because it is scoring or just because it is producing toppers. It is the second criteria, but the first criteria should always be your interest. It should be your interest. Why? Because you might get bored out of your optional after 2 or 3 months of preparation or after 5 months of your preparation. But PSIR or any other optional that you choose, you should be able to read it at least 5 to 7 times before appearing for your mains examination. Then only it will make a matter of difference in your selection or you not getting selected. So the first key is that of interest. My selection criteria is that of interest. The second criteria is what we can call is as practicality. Whether this option is practical or not. See, one thing we have to understand. I might be interested in physics as an optional. I might be interested in Telugu literature as an optional for that matter. But is that optional producing toppers or the ranks that we need to secure or that we wish to secure? Whether that optional is giving us the ranks in the examination or not. See, there is nothing called as idealism. You might be idealistic, but there is nothing called as idealism. This exam will practically reward a person who is realistic. Realistic about his goal, practical about his goal, and chooses an optional. There are a variety of optional there also. There is not only PSI, there are a variety of optional which are interesting also and which are also practical choice. So choose an optional out of which is practical in nature. Why? Because it should be consistently producing the toppers. it should be consistently producing the toppers, because this means that that operation is performing well. There's no point reading an optional which does not perform well in UPSC. Though UPSC deliberately does not sabotages any optional, but then also why should we take risk? So the second criteria for me is practicality over rhetoric. And the third criteria for any optional that you need to take, whether it is PSIR or any other optional, you should always consider guidance. Whether the guidance is available in the market or not. Guidance in the form of books, guidance in the form of PYQs, guidance in the form of solved PYQs, guidance in the form of teachers and mentors. These are the four criteria of time and guidance that I am telling you about. Books, what are the study material? Are they clearly defined or not? Whether we have to search for study material or it is readily available, toppers have given it, teachers are recommending it, and every year when you use and reciprocate the ideas that have been written in that book, you get the number. So it saves a lot of effort, it saves a lot of time, and it decreases the frustration that might be there. Second thing is whether there is a good teacher, good mentor about the same thing or not, with whom you can clear your doubts. Then, is there any solved PYQ booklet that is there through which you can refer to and you can align your answer with? So if the third thing is also being followed, these three criteria will make sure that your option selection guide is most practical and it is well aligned with your selection. You should keep first thing in mind is interest. Narrow down your option to 2 or maximum 3 where you are finding your interest. Then see how that optional is performing in the UPSC examination in at least last 5 years. And thirdly, see whether that optional that you have narrowed down, it is performing well also, but whether that has elaborate amount of guidance, books, material, mentors, teachers available or not. Why? Because someone, suppose A is a person who has chosen an optional that is very interesting, performs good at UPSC. But B has chosen an optional that is also interesting, practical, but also has a plethora of guidance available. So this B person will spend little time on accumulation of resources or basically collecting all the resources, and he can just directly focus his energy on what is required to clear this examination rather than collecting the resources, analyzing them, making their own short notes, and then basically coming out to PYQs, finding a solution to the PYQs. This person will also clear the exam, but the level of effort is much more as compared to this person to that of this person. And UPSC is a relative examination. The person who will do the smart work will also be rewarded. Hard work is must, but it should be cherry on top will be that of smart work. So be very smart in picking up your optional. Now, since we have talked about optional, I'll take an article that appeared in the last week's newspaper. This article was about Japan, just to give you a little glimpse about what PSIR actually is. So this article that you see on your screen is basically talking about the story of what we can call as Japan, where Japan is navigating its new own path. So what this article wanted to highlight, this article wanted to highlight that Japan is changing its long stand. What Japan is changing its long stand in the meaning thereby? Japan used to be dependent on US for its purpose of defense. But now with the unpredictability of Donald Trump and the US foreign policy, Japan is now relying on its own self. The new Prime Minister of Japan, she is focused on making sure that the Japan increases its indigenization. It increases is what we call as its own capacity, and it also partners with like-minded countries and exports the defense equipments to them also. The author C. Raja Mohan, which we frequently quote in our PSIR, also talks about what we call as how Japan has exported defense equipments recently to Australia and has also expressed the same for including a trilateral between Australia, New Zealand and Japan. The same article highlights the same fact. Now this was just an article that has appeared in Indian Express and under the column of what we call as Raja Mandala, which is written by C. Raja Mohan. So this is an article which is important for both GS as well as optional. But the bigger question that should come into mind, that what differentiates GS and well as optional? This article finally also highlighted how India can partner with Japan, because India has a long-standing relationship with Japan which has been mostly cordial. Some occasions of instances of nuclear weapon testing has been negative on part of India and Japan, otherwise it has been mostly stable. But if we are asked this question in PSIR, what is the difference between an answer of GS and that of PSIR? There will be some difference in the answer of GS and PSIR. Suppose I am preparing this option from the perspective of GS. So what all I'll search for if I am preparing this answer from the perspective of GS? So I will basically search for facts and data, and I will determine that I should club my answer into the 4 domains. That is, what is the economic dimension of partnership between India and Japan? What is the strategic dimension of partnership between India and Japan? What is what we can call as global collaboration between India and Japan? We can also look at that. And then we can also look at what we call as defense relationship between India and Japan, or particularly with regard to that of Indo-Pacific. Collaboration with regard to that of Indo-Pacific. So if I am preparing this answer for GS, I'll look at only these 4 aspects. Fill it with lot of data points. For example, economic partnership. So Japan helps us build metro. Japan helps us build dedicated freight corridor. Japan is also helping us bullet train. There is Japanese industrial township that have been established in India. We have entered into a skill partnership agreement with Japan. So all of that I will fill in economic area. Strategic dimension, I will see that there is a reciprocal agreement between India and Japan. There is supply chains resilience initiative between India and Japan. Japan is important for our northeast development. We have also entered into a strategic partnership for security. In global collaboration, I will mention about Asia-Africa Growth Corridor, partnership under G4 for membership in the United Nations Security Council, collaboration over Indo-Pacific. So all of these data points will be filled one by one under different subheadings, so that I can highlight the depth of partnership between India and Japan. And similarly, we can also highlight the issues between India and Japan. But this is a GS answer. When we write this in PSIR, what makes it different in PSIR? The first thing in PSIR that will make it different is that we have to mention the approaches. In PSIR, we also need to mention the approaches. That what IR approach best explains the India-Japan relations. What IR approach, what international relations theory best explains the India-Japan relation. So what is the best explanation of India-Japan relation? The first, we can say that it is the neo-realist perspective given by Kenneth Waltz or John Mearsheimer that basically best explains the India-Japan partnership, where both the countries are basically partnering with each other to counter a rising and offensive China. So neo-realist partnership or neo-realist theory best explains the building closeness between India and Japan. This realism can also be supported by the idea of geopolitical realism. Geopolitical realism is also driving India and Japan closer. This geopolitical realism was explained by whom? By Mackinder and Spikeman, where Japan has been a maritime dominant power dependent on US. India has been a continental power. Now there is a convergence of both the country in the Indo-Pacific region. And why? What is the reason behind the convergence? Because of the designs of China with regard to Japan, where it has territorial disputes with Japan, and also with regard to India, where China is trying to encircle India through its dubbed string of pearls policy. So geopolitical realism given by Spikeman and Mackinder can also explain the increasing closeness between India and Japan. So these two theories explain this thing. Then, if we have to also explain why there is an increasing partnership between India and Japan, so we can highlight two more theories. One is also liberal explanation, liberal institutionalism and constructivism. or liberalism per se can also explain what we called as liberal constructivism, can also explain what we called as India-Japan increasing partnership, wherein we can highlight the example of Joseph Nye and Robert Keohane, who basically talks about complex interdependence, that India and Japan are increasing their partnership because of complex interdependence. Both are a very strong economic partner for each other. Japan is an investor in India. Japan has invested tremendously in India. We are one of the largest recipient of overseas development of Japan, overseas development assistance that Japan provides to other countries. We are also collaborating in Asia-Africa Growth Corridor. We are also collaborating in what we call as reformation of UNSC. So there are various areas of convergence. Economies are completely connected. Cultural ties are also there. So what we can say that there is a liberal institutionalism that can also explain. This was given by Joseph Nye and Robert Keohane. The idea of complex interdependence. Or in the constructivism, we can use culture as an example. For example, Buddhism has been a common link between the two countries. Constructivism. And then we can also use the example of establishment of Quad as a liberal institutionalism and a liberal constructivism, where Quad was established under liberal institutionalism that basically provides for a formal kind of dialogue between India, Japan and other countries who are basically seeing an assertive rise of China. Apart from this, what else is needed in PSIR answer? We need to quote the statements that have been highlighted given by PM of both the countries, head of the states of both the countries, or foreign ministers of both the countries, or what we called as important foreign secretaries of both the countries. So their statements will be as it is quoted. Then there are specific set of scholars and academicians whose books we will quote. For example, we can also quote books like that of Why Bharat Matters like H. Shankar, or How India Sees the World, Choices, Shyam Saran, etc. There are various scholars that we have to quote in PSIR while substantiating our point under this only. So the point framework will be this. It will be more data dense, more factual, but it will be also supported by statements, scholars, and most importantly, the theories of PSIR. This is what will make your answer stand out from that of GS. This is just a glimpse of how PSIR is differentiated from that of what we call as normal GS. So if you have an interest in PSIR, you can think of taking PSIR as an optional. Then you have the guidance. Every year toppers are also there. A lot of guidance is available. I am also available with you for this guidance if you want. So you can decide whether you want to take PSIR as an optional. We'll be making more videos how PSIR basically can be related to what is happening around you. In next video, we'll try to find out what is the revolution of Cockroach Janata Party, whether it is a party, whether it is a pressure group, what is the difference between party and a pressure group. Let us understand that, something that is happening around us and something that we have to read, because a topic in Indian government and politics under paper 1 talks about party system, and it also talks about what we called as new social movement. It also talks about what we called as pressure groups. So we'll understand that in next video. Thank you.